Greetings everyone, it is the Ambassador coming at you with a brand new video today, and today will be a work video. And I wanted to do a couple of reviews and everything, so these will be, there'll be a couple coming up later today and everything. So, but I could cover, first off we're going to cover a 90s comedy classic that I actually really enjoy, and I thought, being we're all still shut in and we're staying home together, in a manner of speaking, thought I'd bring you all a little humor and everything into your day. And today we're going to cover 9 Months, which was a mid 90s comedy starring Hugh Grant, Julianne Moore, Robin Williams, Joan Cusack, and Tom Arnold. Also, and Jeff Goldblum. Sorry, not my best, but you do what you can. But I have seen this movie numerous times, and honestly, it is a favorite of mine, and it has really stuck with me throughout the years. This is a movie I go to if I want a good laugh, because even though the subject matter is a little at times heavy and everything, dealing with a young couple or a couple in their 30s who have unexpectedly become pregnant, it's a movie that I very much have enjoyed. It always gives me a good laugh, and it's one that amazingly I think has aged very, very well. And I think one of the reasons it has aged so well is because of the cast. Now, unfortunately, we no longer have Robin Williams with us, but I think we get, even though he only has a couple of scenes in this movie, there's scenes that really stick with you. But also, the cast overall is really solid. It's a good combination of comedic and dramatic acting in many respects, because you do have this interesting dynamic. You have Hugh Grant and Julianne Moore, who are this couple and everything, and they've been together for 5 years or so and everything, and they're not married yet, but they're driving to they're on the beach at the beginning of the movie. They're having a nice little picnic, just the two of them, and then you have this other family come crashing in, with the husband and wife being Tom Arnold and Joan Cusack. And you come to find out that Joan Cusack actually knows Hugh Grant's character, because her brother, Jeff Goldblum's character, and Hugh Grant's character are actually really close friends. They're really good friends. And Hugh Grant, actually, his character is a child psychologist. And he's been doing this for he's been in his profession for a number of years, and he's dealt with a lot of different childhood issues. And he's dealing with this one kid in particular right now who basically hates his father. I mean, in the couple of scenes that you see Hugh Grant and the kid and everything interacting, and the kid's like, "My dad's an asshole." And I'm quoting here, so forgive the language. But it's just this guy, Hugh Grant's character, he's not ready to be a father by any stretch of the imagination. And his girlfriend, Julia Moore's character, who's a dance instructor, there she asks him, "Do you want more?" And he's like, "No, no, I've had lots. I'm full." And she's like, "No, do you want more for us?" And he's like, "Why shake the boat? We're getting along well. We're doing well." He's like, "I think we're doing as well. We're doing as well or better than most couples at this point." And she kind of is like, "Okay," in a manner of speaking. But then you have Joan Cusack and Tom Arnold and their kid, this couple and their kids come crashing quite literally into the lives of Julianne Moore and Hugh Grant's characters, and just kind of throws their whole world upside down for a few minutes. But what you have happen later on is that um, Hugh and Julianne, I'll just use their actors' names. I don't recall their character names. They're driving up for a nice romantic weekend at Jeff Goldblum's uh, vineyard house or whatever called. It's up in Northern California, so I'm guessing it's a vineyard. Looks like there's a lot of vines around anyway. And she just kind of they're just driving along, and she's counting, and he's concentrating on the road, and she's like, she's counting, and you finally figure out what she's counting. She's counting how many weeks she's late from her last period, and she's like, "I'm pregnant," and he's like, "What?" And unfortunately, he loses control of the car. It crashes. Unfortunately, they're both fine. The car's still drivable. It has some damage and everything, but they kind of get into this little tiff and everything. Well, okay, not a little tiff, but they get into a tiff about, "Are you sure you're pregnant?" He was like, "Are you sure you're pregnant?" And she's like, "Yeah, pretty pretty darn sure." He's like, "I thought we were using birth control." She's like, "Yeah, but it's not foolproof." He's like, "Oh, it's not foolproof except for the percentage that's supposed to be completely foolproof and no problems, and this wasn't supposed to happen." And what you have happen after this is they finally get to Jeff Goldblum's home and everything. It's actually the parents of Jeff Goldblum and John Cusack's characters that was left to their children. And there's this big argument between the two couples and everything. And Jeff Goldblum starts throwing shade at his sister and the Joan and Tom's characters and anything, saying, "Well, until y'all started having children, you were interested in all sorts of things, and now it's just kids, 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 kids." And it gets very heated. And unfortunately, this causes a bit of a rift in the family for a while. And Hugh and Julianne are like, "We just want to have a nice, quiet weekend. We don't want to get involved in your family scuffle here. Just leave us out of it, please." But throughout the course of the movie, you have several scenes. You have the one scene or anything where Julianne and Hugh go to I'm trying to think of the baby doctor. For heaven's sakes, we'll say the baby doctor. Leave it at that. And the regular doctor's out, but the other doctor, uh, Robin Williams' character, Dr. Kosevich, who's a recently immigrated Russian from former Soviet Russia to the United States. Julianne and Hugh end up going to see him, and you've got this very comedic exchange and everything because he's developed this computer program which will determine when the baby will be born. And unfortunately, he screws up, and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute! I had you set as a baboon, and you're not a baboon. You're a simian." And I'll say this: few people can carry off a decent Russian accent or imitate a decent Russian accent. Robin Williams was one of those people who could really do one well. And he's like, "You're not a baboon." She's like, "No, I'm not." And what she ended up happening, he's like, there's a misunderstanding because when Dr. Kosevich tells Hugh and Julianne when the baby's due, he's like, "I wasn't here at the time," and you think they're. He's like, "Okay, she's been unfaithful to me. This isn't my kid." And Julianne's like, "Check your computer. Your computer is wrong." He's like, "Oh crap, it is wrong. I had you as a simian, as a baboon. You're not a baboon." And he recomputes and he asks, "Were you here?" He's like, "Yeah, I was here." He's like, "Were you here with her?" And he was like, "Yeah, I was here with her." He's like, "Okay, well, and then your baby is going to be born in December." I don't remember the exact date, but it's around Christmas time. It's around Christmas time. But unfortunately, after that, they start to drift apart. Hugh's character is having cold feet. He's not ready to be a father. He's worried he's going to screw up. He's worried that his child is going to end up be going to a child psychologist, just like so many have come to him. And there's another really cool scene where they go baby shopping because it turns out that Tom Arnold and Joan Cusack's characters are actually going to have a kid as well. And Julianne and Joan and everything, they start to bond and everything as both expectant mothers and everything. And there's a scene where they're in this, it's kind of like a Toys R Us type of store. And you've got this knockoff of Barney the dinosaur. They call him Arnie, which is actually, I think, a little bit of a gag and everything at Tom Arnold because some people call him Arnie as well. And Tom Arnold's character just kind of goes off on the guy that's in the Arnie suit and says, "My kids don't like your show. They think your show sucks, and we're not going to buy your crap." And the guy in the Arnie suit starts insulting him. And he starts playing off like, "You're just hearing things, guys." And then finally, the guy in the Arnie suit and everything calls him a couple, and I'm quoting again. I'll be quoting here, so again, forgive the language. You penis heads. And he's like, "All right, that's it. There are kids around here. I'm gonna kick your Tom Arnold's characters. I'm gonna kick your ass." And then the guy in the Arnie suit is he's Tom and is actually just kicking his butt. He's taking it to him. And then the guy in the Arnie suits insults the Queen of England. And Hugh Grant's character is, well, actually is British. I mean, well, Hugh Grant and everything is British, but his character is British as well. He's like, "Oh no, you didn't. You don't insult the Queen." And he starts laying into him, and then Julianne and Jones characters come in, and they're like, "You two, stop it!" And they're like, "Oh, we're in trouble. We're up the crap creek here." And Julianne and Joan are having a conversation while this is going on. And she's like, "I know it's kind of hip and chic nowadays to be a strong single mother and everything, but she's like, I would love for my child to have a family." And she's like, if he asked me to marry him, I would do it in a heartbeat. That's how much she loves him." And throughout the rest of the movie, unfortunately, at one part, everything just kind of goes to crap. Literally, everything goes to crap. Hugh's playing tennis or racquetball or whatever with Jeff Goldblum's character at a fitness club or whatever you want to call it, and he realizes that he's missing another doctor's appointment. And this is where they've gone. Julianne's character has gone to get to get a ultrasound of the baby, and Hugh shows up late, and the doctor is there who did the ultrasound and talked with her and everything, and the doctor's like, "You kind of dropped the ball here. You really need to be more supportive of your girlfriend. You need this is the mother of your child, and you've really been screwing the pooch." And she's like, "Do you want the tape of the ultrasound?" He's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Do you want to know the sex? Do you want to know the sex of your baby?" He's like, "Does she know?" And she's like, "Yeah, she knows." And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You're gonna have a son. Got a little boy." And he just kind of that kind of becomes the turnaround point for Hugh Grant's character, because he really kicks it in gear. He really steps up in a big way. He decorates a spare room there in their apartment and everything for the baby. He's reading that book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. And you have this nice montage where you see him reading the book and you see Julianne Moore's character reading the book as well. And he finally bites the bullet. He trades in his little sports car and everything for a decent family vehicle for a minivan. And he goes to Tom Arnold's character, who's actually a used car salesman and everything, owns his own dealership and everything. And what ends up happening, he's like, "Just can you help me out here? Can you arrange something?" And unfortunately, what happens and everything towards the tail end of the movie is there's a complication with the pregnancy. There's some trouble with the child, and Hugh goes to the hospital, and Joan Cusack's character is there and everything, and she's kind of standing outside the room and she's going, "What the heck do you think you're doing here?" Because she's still a little suspicious. She's kind of giving him a hard time. She's like, "Don't you upset her. You upset her, I'll bust my foot off in your backside." In a manner of speaking. He's like, "I really want to see her." He's like, "I feel horrible. Been trying to do right and everything by her and by my child that's going to be born soon and everything." And she lets him into her room, and he goes in, and they've got her hooked up to a heart monitor and a fetal heart monitor and everything, and she's just kind of resting. And he's like, "I was an idiot. I was a fool. I was stupid. I was dumb. I was immature. I was a blockhead. I completely screwed up." He's like, "But I want to be in my child's life, and I want us to be a family." And he pulls the engagement ring out of his pocket and everything. And he's like, "Will you marry me?" And of course she says, "Yeah, of course." She's like, she realizes everything. There's some dialogue there where he's like, you don't want to upset the baby right now. And she's like, how would you know that? He's like, well, I've been reading the book. He's like, I went to a Lamaze class. I was the only single father there. And everything. If you've ever been to a Lamaze class, if you've ever been through those things, it's usually couples and everything, or single mothers, whatever the case may be, who are learning how to get through childbirth and everything. And it can be kind of odd to see a single guy there, but he goes and she realizes he is really trying to do what's right for her and for the baby. And that's why she does accept his proposal to get married. And they have a little brief scene where you see them coming out of the church and everything. And she's obviously she's showing big time showing, but eventually you get to they you get to they're going out to dinner. She's feeling better. She feels like being out and doing, and then they finally get seated, and her water breaks right there in the restaurant, and they get her into the car, and they it's like a comedy of errors towards the end and everything, because this movie takes place in San Francisco. And if I recall correctly, this movie is directed by Christopher Columbus. If I'm wrong, comment below. Let me know for sure and everything if you know who directed this movie. But I'm pretty sure it's Chris Columbus because a lot of his movies take place in San Francisco or California somewhere. But anyhow, they finally get to the hospital, and everybody and their mother, pun intended, is going into labor. And the only doctor that's available is Dr. Kosovich, Robin Williams' character. And they're like, we don't want him. He'll screw it up. And it turns out that Tom Arnold's and Joan Cusack's characters, she's in labor as well. And she gives us they finally get Julianne Moore into the delivery room, and they're having to share a delivery room. And everything is going everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong. Dr. Kosovich faints. Hugh Grant's character faints. The only one who doesn't faint is Tom Arnold because he's been through it umpteen dozen times. He's actually there with a video camera recording his wife in labor. And she just spews this absolutely hilarious string of profanity that I will not repeat here. And you cannot help but bust out laughing. Eventually, both mothers deliver. Um, Joan Cusack has a little girl, obviously, and her husband, they have a little girl. Uh, Julianne Moore's character and Hugh Grant's character, they have the little boy, just like Dr. Kosovich or the other doctor. I think it was Dr. Green was the name of the was the ultrasound doctor, whatever you want to call it. Ends up having a little boy, and it's just it ends happily. Everybody has their kids, and honestly, it is a fun movie. Like I said, there are some heavy dramatic scenes in this, but I see it primarily as a comedy. But a couple of things I have taken away from this that I want to share with you all before I close this up. For a 90s film, I'm honestly very impressed that they played this whole idea of a couple that have a child and everything, and they're not married yet. And I know some people may look at this and say, I don't approve of this. But here's the thing. Eventually they do right. They may have put the cart before the horse, as in an old saying. They got pregnant before they got married. But you know what? I look at it this way. He did right by her. And obviously they are in love. They've been together for 5 years. So this is not me throwing shade at them or anybody who has gone through a similar situation, far from it. But the other thing I will say is, and this is just my perspective, if you don't agree with me, that's okay. But I like the fact that this movie has a very pro-life message and everything. And I don't go, y'all know me by this point. I don't go social or political or anything like that. But I do like the fact that she by and large does not consider getting rid of the child and anything like that. This is not that subject isn't even broached. And honestly, I think it was best that it wasn't. There are other movies that have tackled that subject and did it appropriately. But anyways, folks, that's my thoughts on 9 months. If you have not seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, ball roll, self quarantining, and everything, I do recommend it. And even if after this is all over and you can go back outside and do whatever, if you are looking for a good 90s comedy, 9 months is I think is a great one. So as always, if you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you enjoyed this review. Make sure and hit that like button, share this with your friends, and if you, like I said, if you are new to my channel and you like my content, consider hitting that subscribe button. Um, I will be doing another video and everything, releasing it later today and everything. We'll be covering another 90s comedy that I absolutely love that does also star Robin Williams. This will be kind of my Robin Williams double feature. But until next time, folks, y'all take care, y'all stay safe, and until next time, this is the Ambassador signing off.